Good evening and welcome back. Thank you for staying with us on Checkpoint. It is the 14th day of January. The 15th of January is important because it is the commemoration of the El Ade attack. 173 officers were killed in that ambush attack that was one of the worst in Kenya's military history in terms of, the scale and the scope of the attack and, of course, the casualties as well. What lessons have been learned? And indeed, all of that happening while we look at what happened in El Ade and then the attacks that have happened today, which have been the basis of our big stories tonight. We're having a conversation on Kenya's war on terror and whether we're making some better strides and the emerging threats in 2018. Tonight, to speak about this with me, we have Simiyu Warunga. Thank you very much. And Abdi Wahab Sheikh. I would like to mention that we did send out an invitation and he had confirmed but had to cancel at the last minute. The director of the National Counterterrorism Center and also the special envoy, Ambassador Dr. Martin Kimani. He was unable to make it for our discussion tonight. But we will have the conversation nonetheless. Gentlemen, thank you. Let us start with most recent events. Simiyu, your thoughts on the attack that took place today? Reports that the police station in Ishakani had in fact been abandoned for the last couple of days from the previous attack. Residents are worried. What do you make of all this in the wake of what's been happening the last month and, tomorrow's commemoration?
Even we sat with you here about a few months ago, and I used the word, transforming from a terror organization into an insurgent organization.
Right.
Al-Shabaab is combining both. And when you look at how ISIS behaved in the Middle East, they went in as a terror organization, then metamorphosed into an insurgent group and started creating space for themselves. I think this is where this country has to accept what is happening on the ground. The fact that Al-Shabaab is creating space for itself and ensuring that government forces are not in those spaces where they're supposed to govern speaks a lot. And the point I get finding in this country is that our leaders who are in charge of terror organization, counter-terror instruments, are refusing to accept that Al-Shabaab tactics are now moving from a pure terror organization into an insurgent group. And they want to create space so that they are able to continuously perpetuate their terrorism in this country. And we continue refusing to accept the fact that the tactics are changing and these people have a bigger agenda than just being a terror organization. The fact that police stations are being abandoned, the fact that Kenyans are now moving away from their villages, the fact that even the Boni operation is bearing no fruits many months down the line and the government has put in a lot of money, should speak to those of us who understand what these terror and insurgency issues are all about. And I think my word to the government of this country is that they must accept that what we are now getting into in Lamu is not necessarily a terror per se problem, but an insurgents organization that is geared towards ensuring that they take space from Lamu to Mandera. And you realize they've been doing all these things up to Mandera town.
Route, yes.
Once we accept that they have changed their agenda, then we should also reorganize our forces how to deal with this issue. And we must accept. It is the biggest problem in this country. We refuse to accept because it is me speaking from a TV station and I'm not in a counter-terror office, so Simiyu does not know what he's talking about. But many historians will tell you, the moment a government accepts the facts, then it is able to reorganize itself and deal with the emerging issues as they emerge.
Okay, Abdi Wahab, what do you think about what he says? It's now an insurgency and Kenya's approach in tackling Al-Shabaab?
In fact, one of the issues why the Kenyans they are not learning any lesson from El Ade, it was a lack of the better intelligence gathering. You have to know where your enemy is. You have to know what you call the formations of Al-Shabaab. They have to know what kind of attack they are going to take it. Yeah. So that's one issue. Secondly, the poor operational setup and procedure also and deploying for, company-sized forces to the remote area also contributed the Al-Ade defeat. Still, the Kenyan armed forces must understand their local geography. They must cultivate what you call, a positive relationship with the local community. If they fully engage the local communities and they gain the hearts and the minds of the local communities, they can easily, contain such kind of attack. One of the issues why the Kenya they went into Somalia was to secure the border, to secure the Kenya, to secure the Somalis as well. But unfortunately, 2 years another attack down the line, still the issue remains the same. The lack of the coordination and communication among the, AMISOM peacekeeping force also contributed this kind of attack. Initially, when Al-Ade was happened 2 years ago, the plan was to set up a rapid response forces within AMISOM, which has also enjoyed the air power, so that they can easily rescue the what they call the army forces in case of any eventualities. But unfortunately, 2 years down the line, history remains the same. The other issue is, which I'm going to mention here, there is a lack of coordination and communication among the KDF inside Somalia and the regional member states inside Somalia, specifically those who border with Kenya, the southwest state of Somalia and Jubaland as well. So unless we have a better intelligence gathering, unless we have a better relationship with the local community, unless we understand the local geography, unless we understand the families involved, those guys, such kind of things will happen over and over again.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
Now that, we'll be commemorating, the second year, since the Al-Ade attack, that was, so horrific. I think, all Kenyans finally came face to face with what war looks like and the casualties. Let's talk a little bit about, Somalia and what's happening in there. KDF is now, part of AMISOM. We're hearing of drawdowns that are taking place in there. But a lot of money has been pumped into Somalia to try and get it out. But, it doesn't seem to be bearing the fruit maybe as fast as we would like it to. Is it impatience on the part of the world and partners like Kenya? Or is there something else that's going on inside Somalia that we need to understand better?
We must differentiate from the time Kenya went into Somalia as a unilateral country to deal with Al-Shabaab, and from the time it rehearted into AMISOM. So many things changed. The fact that Kenya will do its own things when it was alone now makes it a bit difficult for it to continue doing what it expects to do under AMISOM. But it is also important that even within AMISOM, each country has been given a sector. And within the framework of the operational plan for AMISOM, each country's sector is manned by the units of that country in collaboration with the rest. Now, Kenya has a lot of experience in southern Somalia, where it's been since it went into Somalia. But the fact that we continuously have these things in Lamu, along the border, it makes us feel like either one, we don't seem to want to finish this problem inside our own country, so that we remain with the problems in Somalia. Number two, we seem not to want to give the necessary forces in quantity, in quality of arms, to deal with these issues inside our country so that we finish this problem. Number three, I cannot understand why Kenya continuously gives this operation under a civilian person to be in charge, for example, the Boni operation. Yet we have a military contingent that has been in Lamu for as long as we know, since we started having the problem. So what am I saying? Within even the framework of interagency operations in Lamu, we feel that there's a problem between a National Counterterrorism Center, which is essentially supposed to be an operational information gathering and research sharing center within the framework of the interagency collaboration in fighting terrorism. And I have a feeling that now that NIS has established its own fully fledged division on counterterrorism, Now that the military intelligence wing has established its fully fledged department on counterterrorism, what does that speak about the interagency collaboration? It means there must be a problem that needs to be dealt with by a government that has put all these groups together to deal with issues of terrorism. So my question, I think my answer to you is this. We don't seem to have learned much. The military as an entity has learned quite a lot, because now we hear they are fairly advanced in ensuring that they deal with issues as they come. They've learned their lessons, because the military normally has what we call lessons learned, a debrief.
Right.
And therefore they go through all their mistakes and end up with a plan that can easily counter what they went through. But as a country, I think we need the Commander-in-Chief, the National Security Council, to put structures, systems on countering terrorism that must be foolproof, that is not individualized in nature, that is not departmentalized in nature, and have a national strategy that is under a leader that is capable of issuing instructions and orders and deal with this issue in this country once and for all.
Decisively, okay. Like you talked about, we went into Somalia, now under AMISOM, obviously to secure what is happening there and to, contain Al-Shabaab and essentially degrade them to a great extent. But Somalia is a complicated, terrain. It's a complicated system. Are there other external forces that, are making this even more complicated? What do you have?
I think it's better to understand the entire situations. And although AMISOM, they are there for the last 10 years inside Somalia, they have done a lot of things. Again, it's a lot to be done. Unfortunately, as we speak right now, the situation is changing. For instance, the regional, factor communicate the matter, further communicate the picture. For instance, the national interest of Kenya and national interest of Ethiopia in Somalia are changing as we speak right now. That's why, as a result, they created what they call a vacuum, the security vacuum. Because why they're changing? Because in the face of internal crisis, both countries.
Okay.
Then that can easily benefit the peace spoilers, specifically the Gulf State countries, whereby they involve fully the Somali affairs because of their perceived strategic interests, which do not include even the well-being of the Somalians' future. Unfortunately. That's one issue. The second issue is the Israeli-led coalition also. They are so involved in Somalia mainly because they want to limit or capping the growing, the Turkish growing influence inside the Mogadishu, specifically the economic and security sectors. Turkey, they invest a lot, 50 million shilling inside Somalia to set up a military facilities in Somalia, and they're willing to train almost 10,000 Somali troops for the next maybe 2 years, so that in case of abrupt withdrawal of AMISOM, they can easily handle the security of the nation. That's one issue. The other issue is there is a growing what they call disagreement between the superpowers themselves inside Somalia. The U.S.-led Pentagon, rather than department, they are going in their own way. I don't know whether United Kingdom and other, European countries, they are going to follow the same or they are going to differ. Right. The time will tell. The other issue is there is a deep division within the superpowers inside Somalia. In fact, it's illustrated what you call the plan of withdrawal late last year, whether the AMISOM, they are going to withdraw from the southern part of Somalia, specifically the bottom of Prawa, whereby the Europeans, they believe that in case that actually is unwise, if they withdraw abruptly, then they can, the Al-Shabaab can easily, retake the city.
Absolutely.
Unlike the vision, what they call the opinion of the U.S. Yes, they are saying, Al-Shabaab is still there controlling in the both city of Mombasa and surrounding villages. During the day, AMISOM are controlling the city. During the night, Al-Shabaab they are controlling the city.
Okay.
So why can't we support what you call the Somali National Army rather than AMISOM?
Yeah.
Then they cut the aid from AMISOM. That signifies the future disagreement between the superpowers. And in fact, in the year 2018, there is a lack of consensus among the international community, what they call the Somali situation. That's further complicated the entire issues.
Okay, so what is happening there internationally, national interests at play within Somalia? We'll come and talk about a little bit about what's happening within Somalia as well, because they talk about, corruption being a major challenge to just Somalia getting back on its feet, which I think would be critical, in winning the war on terror. We want to take a small break. We will be right back. We have Simi Warunga with me and Abdul Wahab Sheikh. Thank you for staying with us. And also, we will talk about situational awareness, what you need to be, aware of even as the commemoration of Elade happens tomorrow. Not fear-mongering, but it's important to understand where we are with the war on terror and what we can all do towards making Kenya more secure. We'll be right back.